All right, guys, welcome to the Coastal Conservative Podcast. Today we have special guest Congressman Jerry Carl, or as many of us know him as just Jerry.
That's it.
Yeah, welcome to the show, Jerry. How are you today?
I'm great, man. How are you doing? Good to be on your show. We've talked about doing this for a couple of years, probably.
Yeah.
Getting together. So finally we get to do it on a Saturday afternoon.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you taking the time. Let's start off, Congressman Carl. Thank you for your ongoing support of small business. To start, could you share how your experiences as a small business owner influence your approach in Congress?
Sure. I've been, my primary background has been pharmacies and also home health care equipment companies. So I've got firsthand experience of the burdens that the federal government puts on, with regulations and the change of regulations. Most people don't realize with Medicare, the rule of thumb is there's 2 changes every day to some portion of Medicare. So it may be months before you actually get notice that something's changed that you've been billing for. So it's very frustrating from the background I come from. So I try to take that small business mentality when I deal with these big government projects and ideas. How are we pushing them out there? How does it protect the small business? How can we do it at a reasonable cost to the taxpayers? Just common sense stuff to you and I doesn't always apply in Washington, D.C.
That's right. That's right. Let's jump into workforce development real quick. It's a vital issue in our area, as many others. What strategies do you think will help strengthen the workforce development? And the big one we have down here is the Gateway Initiative. So what are you guys doing to kind of help move that forward?
So the Gateway Initiative, we got involved early. I think that goes back as far as even Congressman Byrne. I think he did some early work on it, helping get started. We have secured some funds to help them on that project. But we've got to reach out into the schools. We've got to get the kids early. When I was a county commissioner over here in Mobile County, I learned real quick you got to reach out into junior high school. You got to plant those seeds in these kids' heads. So when I'm talking to the Truckers Association or I'm talking to a group of seasoned people that do this, I encourage them, take those trucks to the school parking lot and ride those junior high school kids around, or let them put that welding equipment on them, or whatever you're trying to do, and try to plant that seed at junior high school. Because by the time they get out of high school, usually they've got a good idea of what they want to do and where they're going. I didn't. I struggled for 2 or 3 years trying to find my direction. But most kids do. They have an idea of what they want to do. So we've got to focus on that. We've got to also, focus on once we get these kids, how do we keep them in state? How do we keep them here? Because we get them trained and they get a better job in Atlanta or a better job in Houston, and they want to move away. Well, my whole focus was to get, again, over the years, is to get these kids trained and keep them at home. We want family close. We don't want family in Houston or California. We have family all over the place, but reality, we want to keep them home. So we've got to focus on getting those jobs better. I'll continue focusing on the truck driving issue, just because look over into Mobile County. And we're moving a lot of trailers every day just coming in and out of the port. So we need many, many more drivers than what we have access to right now. So again, to encourage these kids to go into a job that's going to be beneficial for the rest of their working life and be able to keep them at home, that's the best experience we could have.
I definitely,
and try to convince them of that. It's the hard part.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now, how about on the workforce campus side of it? Some of that is bringing in workforce for restaurants, retail, things like that. Can you speak on that?
Yes, Porch Creek had a program. Auburn had a program. All of these organizations they truly want to start focusing on that hospitality industry. We're gonna need those players to come together and help us put those programs together. And again, we have to encourage these kids that probably aren't seeking that. I mean, everybody that's 18 years old these days seem to want to write software for gaming software or something. And trust me, I served with one of the guys in one of the original programmer's a Pac-Man. He did very well. He's still doing very well. But we've got to encourage the kids. We've got to get the employers more involved. Not that they're not, but to get them more involved and more hands-on with these kids and getting in front of them, I think is huge. The small restaurants, the small hotels, as well as the big stuff. The Porch Creek, of course. Auburn University had a program they were trying to put actually here in Mobile for the hospitality industry. And since I've left county commission, I've kind of lost track of it. I don't think it actually panned out. But there's some universities that have some stuff already established. We need to see if we can recruit them to come down and actually do them here in Baldwin County.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerry. Next thing, let's talk about ESG for a moment. It seems to be influencing some of our businesses and their investment decisions. What are we doing in Alabama to kind of help rein this in or put an end to it?
The ESG issue in Washington, Washington loves to make a lot of noise out of anything that's, I would call, questionable or sociable. This community, the state of Alabama, is really not interested in the state of California telling them how to run their social issues and or their family issues. So we have, now, as far as the state, I can't answer for the state, but I'm sure you've got plenty of elected officials there in Baldwin County that'll come tell you what they've actually done from a state standpoint. But from a federal standpoint, on the appropriations, for example, we stripped out all money to enforce that. We stripped out all money that would encourage it and push it and promote it. Why? Well, for one thing, we got a $33 trillion debt. We've got to find places where we can start saving money and cutting back on spending, and this being one of them.
I agree. Next, let's get into immigration. How are the open borders affecting Alabamians?
Well, when you look and you see one of the top 10 arrests that Nicaragua had been looking for, a gang leader arrested in right outside of Birmingham, Alabama, in a neighborhood. He had moved in and was living, quote unquote, a normal life. That tells you they've infiltrated the suburban cities. And Mobile certainly is, and Baldwin County is certainly not shielded from that. If anything, we're probably closer to a target. Because you think about drugs, when we started looking at drug enforcement, when I was involved with the sheriff department, you're looking at drugs coming across the border. They go to I-10. They either go to San Diego or they go to Jacksonville, Florida. If they want to go to Chicago, they come through Baldwin County. They come through Mobile on the way. So it's a dangerous spot here, and the cartels that are coming across. My opinion, they've already got their distribution center set up. These are billion-dollar-a-year corporations. These are not a bunch of thugs, as we would think. I mean, these are businessmen wearing three-piece suits and living in high rises. So they don't fit the normal image. I went down to Panama on immigration issues, and the money they're spending down in Panama will just blow your mind, building high rises that nobody's moving into. But they have so much money, they have to use it somewhere. So they're building high-rise office complexes that are completely empty. So we have to be very cautious in our community. The smartest thing we can do is cut it off the border. As simple as that sounds, that doesn't always work. I spoke last night at a program, and I know you were there, and I talked about, I got frustrated with the way the administration is handling it. So I went to Mexico. I met with the Mexican government. I went to Honduras. I went to El Salvador. I wound up down in Panama. And I met with all of these, trying to figure out how we can slow the migration up. But the drugs is a huge part of it. The human trafficking is just horrendous. We don't need to get into that, but some of the stuff I saw and heard, and it's just beyond belief that humans can be that cruel to one another. So we've got to protect the people coming across the border. Not all of them are bad people. They truly are not. I mean, they see the American dream. And you've got to be proud of that they see something that they want that bad. But we as Americans have got to figure out how to seal that border. We've got to take the immigration issue and clean it up. I mean, the immigration process and clean it up. We need to make it simpler. We need to refine it. Our system, it doesn't work. I've got a young lady that works for me. She's actually from South America. It took her about 9 years to actually get her citizenship. And it was very expensive and very frustrating. Most of these people coming across cannot do that. And for people to say, oh, well, we don't need them, you're wrong. You better look at Gulf Shores. You better look at Orange Beach. You better look when the tourists get in town, and you're the people that are changing the sheets in the bed, cleaning the hotel rooms, cooking in the kitchen, serving the food. I mean, that non-essential work that we learned from COVID is essential. Those are the jobs that most of these people will actually could fill, and we could use. Not to mention the farming issues that we have. So we've got to quit whispering, about this. It's got to become more of a workforce issue and less of an immigration issue. I would love to be able, my Republican friends, to split the two and view it as two different issues. One being workforce. That's what we need. The immigration we've got to clean up. We've really got to work on that hard. And that's part of our job in Washington. But most people are very fearful of it because the image that people take from it automatically is, oh, everybody wants citizenship. No, a lot of these people want to work a few months here and then go back home to their families. So we've got to be able to separate that from immigration. And then we got to start really focusing more on what the bad guys are versus the good guys that are coming across.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get back to the drug issue and fentanyl for a minute and the role China's playing on it. I saw recently Joe Biden met with the president / dictator of China, and they were negotiating how much fentanyl China's going to send across the border. That just kind of shows weakness, in my opinion, because I'm sure you can't track that because it's all coming illegally. So what do we need to do as far as China's concerned, but also with the administration and how we change our approach to China?
So the administration's got to go. I mean, we've got to get some adults in the room. I like I said last night, I do not understand what their long-term game is on the border. I mean, everybody says, well, it's to get more voters. Most of these that are coming across the border, they're Catholic, they're family oriented, and that puts them in the cast of probably voting more Republican than Democrat. So that throws that image out the wall. I don't know what their focus is. Now, as far as the fentanyl, I usually carry a pack of little sweet and low in my pocket. That little pack of sweet and low, if that was fentanyl, if that was 100% fentanyl, that's enough to kill 250 grown men our size. So it doesn't take much to feed this country. So for every little bit we catch, you can imagine there's got to be 10 times that made it past the border. We've got to start leaning on. I talked to the president of Mexico about it, and he played like there's nothing he could do, because literally they're shipping it into Mexico, and primarily through one port. We know a lot. We can't talk about it, but primarily through one port. Then it's being distributed from there, and it's coming up to the borders, and that's where the process is actually taking place. They're making it into pill form, or however they're going to hide it. But we on China, we've got to start leaning on China. We've got to start doing some more tariffs. We've got to start encouraging better conversations. Now, I was encouraged that the president of China was here. I mean, that's a positive thing. I'm sorry. I want to have communication with him. I want to be able to share. But historically, you remember when China back in the 1800s just got flooded with opium from the Europeans. And I think this is kind of China's way of pushing back on, giving us a little taste of our European ancestors, this opium that we just flooded their country with, because they're flooding our country with it now. But I would not trust anything that came out of that meeting. I don't trust. I just don't trust either conversation coming out of that meeting.
I agree. And thinking back to reading books like The Art of War, you can kind of get into the mindset of how the Chinese operate. Let's switch over. Former President Trump remains a significant figure in the Republican Party. How do you think his impact will be on the party going forward and shape your political approach?
Trump has made all of us, and I don't know that the word conservative is right, but we've certainly got more vocal on social issues. Historically, we kind of went along to get along. When you talk about folks in office in the past, and Trump has really pushed all of us to speak more freely about it. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a very good thing. But at the same time, I think it's pushed the far left to move the other way also, and be more vocal the other way. So Trump's going to be our next president. Y'all might as well get ready for that. I mean, I think there's very little doubt in my mind. I still don't think it's going to be Biden that will run. I've said that for the last 2 years, and everybody was laughing at me 2 years ago. Now they're kind of scratching their head. I've said it's going to be Newsom out of California. That's kind of the way I read it. But Trump's going to be the president. It's going to get pretty rough the first year because there'll be a lot of changes. And I told him the other day it's going to be a vacuum of people leaving D.C. You'll be able to hear the moving trucks as they're running out of town because things will change. And dear God, we need to change this. Bring it on. We need to change it so bad.
Absolutely. So
it's bad in D.C. People just don't realize how bad it is. I mean, we live in a very sheltered community down here in South Alabama, and thank God we do. I wouldn't change it for anything. But you get up in D.C., it's totally different. Totally different. Now, those are the people that are running D.C.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of people are fleeing those blue states and blue areas because of the mess that they've created.
And a lot of people like yourself are getting very disheartened with D.C. You've got a lot of good people up there fighting, but you've got a lot of bureaucrats that have been up there for 25 plus years, and they're in the back rooms writing the laws and working the deals that we can't get to, even as an elected official. I can tell you stuff as an elected official. We can't even ask for information on by law that have been written. So there's a lot of changes, and I think Trump and Trump's leadership, he's proven his leadership, he's proven his skills, he's proven his business background. So I think Trump's going to be that person who's going to really shake it up. I tell people, you think the first 4 years was a shake up, wait till the next 4 years.
Absolutely. Any speculation on vice president?
No, I'm lost on that one. I've heard a few names I'm not particularly fond of, but and I don't want to tell you that one, but I really don't know. I would love for see him to get, because whoever he picks is going to be the next president. I think. I truly think. But I know this is a real twist on personalities, but someone like a Katie Britt that could sit there for 4 years and learn the movements and the functions. That's one of the smartest individuals I've ever worked with. She's young, she's intelligent, she's got a strong family. I mean, her husband is very smart himself. But someone like a Katie Britt, somebody that we as a Republican Party can really build from after he gets through, because after 4 years, he'll always be a factor in politics, always. But he's got to help the Republican Party pick the new replacement, which theoretically should be the vice president. That doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen. But a Katie Britt, I'd like to see somebody like that. A VP role.
I agree. I've never met Katie in person, but I just downloaded her book. God Calls Us to Do Hard Things, and I'm only through the first few chapters, but very inspiring. So I agree.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time with her. Off the campaign trail, out of the public eyes, and she's the same in private life as she is in her public life. And that speaks a lot in this business, because you almost have to have a split personality to be in politics. And I know that, I know a lot of people laugh at it. I get it, but she doesn't. Katie is Katie. I mean, that's what you see is what you get. And I got to start calling her Senator Britt. I think she's earned that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So switching gear a little bit, recently the lines have been redrawn, redistricted, and you got put up against an incumbent as well to run for Congress. So I want to get your thoughts on that. And then recently there was a proposal for you and this other person, Barry Moore, to be in a debate, and you pulled out of the debate. I wanted to kind of get some of your thoughts behind that. And
well, I think there's a breakdown in communication here, and I've been on phone calls back and forth with several people today. They called me after that meeting. There was not a back out. We agreed to look at a date and a debate, and the next thing we knew, there was a date and a time posted on Facebook. So we didn't have any role in putting that date together. So there's just too many hands in the kitchen here. So I'm not going to point at somebody and say they're wrong or they're not telling the truth. That's not the case here. I think there's just too many people involved. So I'm trying to keep myself out of it personally, but we didn't pull out of it. What we were trying to say is the date was important. We got a very small window. We got 108 days left in this campaign. So we got to be very stingy with our time. We would love to do a debate, but the date that was picked is the problem. And now it's public, I can talk about it, but we were putting together a border trip with 5 other congressmen going down to the border. Now, the problem now is we've with saying that and having to release that to try to keep ourselves out of trouble. I don't know if we're going to be able to make a trip or not. Because you send 6 congressmen to Juarez, Mexico border, you got sitting targets. So the fact we can't tell everything sometimes doesn't mean that we're trying to mislead or lie. It's a security issue. It's not just about me. It's about 5 other congressmen. So we'll deal with it. But we have not said no. We have not pulled out. We've not agreed to it. But this has really gotten blown out of proportion, and I'm a little confused this morning. But just for the sake of conversation, I'm going to let my staff handle it. If we can put some days together, I'm all for it. I've never had a campaign I didn't have to debate multi times. So I'm good with debate. I don't have problems with debates. So again, I think there's just too many people passing messages, and you know how that get changed up.
Gotcha.
But we do have, in Baldwin County is probably without a doubt, the most important portion of this new district is 34%. So it's going to become a target, obviously, of both of us, myself and Barry. But Baldwin County being 34%, I have to pay attention. You know, I don't have a choice. That's my base. I mean, that's it's incredible. I was over there last night. We'll be over there next week. I mean, we're constantly running back and forth and doing things in Baldwin County. I mean, from a congressional standpoint, I mean, we have really worked and fought for Baldwin County issues. We will continue to do that. So Baldwin County is deep rooted in my needs. So for someone to say we pulled out, I disagree with that. How about that? We'll work on that.
Gotcha. And with the changing of the redistricting, how does that change how you're going to campaign?
Well, it's going to change how we campaign. I mean, I'm obviously on the far west side of the district. Barry's on the far west side. So I've got to get into Wiregrass and just introduce myself and, you know, and just touch people and talk to people. Just like I did in Baldwin County in 2020. It's a slow process. It's one here, it's one there, and it turns into 3 and 5 and 10 and 25. And I mean, we have to do the same process, but I have to keep it balanced. I have to spend as much time in Mobile County as I do Baldwin County, as I do Escambia County. That's my base. I've got to hold my base and then grow from that.
Absolutely.
And then there's 5 other counties that will be added on to that. So this district, I love to tell folks, will run from Dauphin Island to Dothan. That's basically the length of the district.
Nice. That's quite a change up, but I'm sure you're ready for it.
Yeah.
You know, what message you have for the voters of Baldwin County and Alabama to vote for you, and then we'll kind of wrap up.
So, you know, Baldwin County, look at the infrastructure needs. And my background as a county commissioner, I mean, I've always been there. I understand infrastructure needs, and good gracious, Baldwin County, the growth they're having right now, they need all the help they can get out of Washington. We've not been in a real good position with this administration. Hopefully this next administration we will certainly have a much louder voice and can do some things. You know, growth in Baldwin County, your airport. I mean, we could do a lot more at your airport there. I can see the airport there in Gulf. Let's just take Gulf Shores. That airport will be a major player in the future. I mean, that will get some commercial flights in and out. Orange Beach the same way. I mean, people want to get in and out easier. So when you start, you know, the infrastructure, the transportation issues are huge. You know, again, on the workforce. I mean, I've worked with workforce for the last 15 years on even my own businesses and the struggles. So I understand Baldwin County and Baldwin County's needs because I am one of them. I mean, I live there. I mean, I'm there. Well, I don't physically live there, but I'm there constantly. And I really follow up with my elected officials. You want to know what's going on? Call the mayor. call the city council members, call the elected officials, say, hey, how can we help? You know, I encourage anyone, ask your mayor, ask your city council members how they're going to vote. I think you'll find I've got a pretty good record working with them and for them. I tell them all the time, I work for you. What can I do? Because I know they represent the people in their community. That's important. We don't need to lose sight of that. We all work for somebody. And the voters are obviously that somebody.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for having you on today, Congressman Jerry Carl. Thank you for your support for our military, for our local community. Thank you to your son for serving in the Marine Corps. And we appreciate you being on today. And guys, thanks for tuning into the Coastal Conservative Podcast. Please like and share. We're on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, Instagram, and we look forward to having you back again soon, Jerry.
Take care, brother. Enjoyed it.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.